and I am so excited that you decided to take time out of your day to spend with me because today we are talking fall book recommendations. And this is just a bunch of books that I think would be very atmospheric and very fun to read in the fall time. Some of these might not have fall settings, but they just give cozy. So it's either fall or cozy or fall and or cozy books. And so that's what we're doing today. We got a lot of books to get through, so we're just gonna go ahead and keep the intro short and let's talk about these books. First up in the romance category, we have one of my favorite romances of all time, and that is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. And for me, school settings equal fall. So a lot of these are going to be in this because they have a school setting. And one of them is Honey and Spice. This is technically a YA romance, I think, but it is set in a college. And this couple, Kiki and Kai, has some of the best chemistry I've ever read in a book. So, you definitely need to pick this up. And this follows Kiki. She has a radio show where she gives relationship advice to all the girls on campus. And she finds herself in a sticky situation with somebody who she has publicly bashed on her radio show, which is Kai. So they end up in a fake dating situation and it just kind of goes from there. And I had such a great time reading this, and I look for any opportunity to recommend this book. So yeah, pick this one up. The next romance I have is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore, and this is recently blown up all over social media, and I picked this up last year. And let me go ahead and warn you, do not be fooled by this cute cover. This book is spicy, and I was unaware going into it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a cute little fun. Okay, she gave spice. That pumpkin spice was spicy. And so this basically follows Jeannie, who was gifted her aunt's cafe, and she has to move to this small town called Dream Harbor, and something happens. This is also a mystery book as well, so it's a romance with a little mystery on the side. And we have a grumpy sunshine, small town, all the things that we love about these types of books. So I definitely suggest to pick this one up. I plan on picking up the second book in the series this fall, and that is The Pumpkin Spice. No, that's the same book. I meant The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. Yeah, so basically we're just following a different couple. It's another romantic mystery, and I'm excited to get into it. Next, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and I just read this book, and I wish I had waited until fall because it just the cozy would have been upped, you know what I'm saying? And I had a great time with this. We follow Dora, who has half a soul, and so she's trying to navigate society and life, and also figure out why she has half a soul and see if there's a way to put it back together. And there's just a lot of hijinks, a lot of actual deep conversations in this as well. And I just really had a great time. It was so cute. Moving into our fantasy category, I know, like myself, a lot of readers like to really get into their fantasy bag when the weather cools off in the fall and winter. So I have some that I think will be really good for you. And first, I want to start off with some series, and I will just say that all of these recommendations are books that I actually have read myself. But when it comes to series, some of them I have not read yet, but that's the only ones that I'm including that are unread because I wanted this to be recommendations of books that I have actually read myself. So yeah, moving on. The first series that I want to talk about is the Aurelian Cycle series, and it starts off with Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. And this is a YA series that follows Annie and Lee. And in this, I think it's most important to point out that there are dragons, but also Annie and Lee are kind of battling it out to become the number one person or whatever in their dragon riding class. And so we also have a school setting in this, and we do have romance in this as well. If you enjoy dragons, Dragon Rider School, and then also books that talk about the unfair treatment of the poor. And then moving into the second book, Flamefall, it is more of a winter setting, but if you read Fireborn in the fall, then you can just pick up Flamefall in the winter and you'll be just fine. The word I was looking for earlier is also that this contains a rebellion. That's where I'm trying to go. That's what I was searching for, rebellion. And the last book in the series is Fury Song, and I have yet to pick that up, but this is a really good YA series. I know we were all in our dragon era, so these books are perfect to pick up to get that fix. Moving on, we have the All Souls series, and that's going to start off with The Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, and this is going to give you a bunch of different vibes that are perfect for fall. You're going to get that school setting, and I think this is set at Oxford, but also a library setting. And then we have witches, we have vampires, we have demons, we have all the things that make for a perfect fall fantasy read. This also has a lot of history steeped into it, a lot of suspense, a lot of mystery. So this book and this series is a combination of, I think, a lot of things that, you know, make for the perfect fall read. A new book in this series was just released in July, and that is called The Blackbird Oracle. So if you're looking for a real long series to just binge, I think this would be the perfect one for you. Also, I am using natural light, so it's probably going in and out as the sun is, but it's okay. We're fine. We're just rolling with it. And then we have a cozy fantasy, and that is Legends and Lattes. Y'all know this is going to be on everybody's fall book recommendations every year since it came out, but I can't not mention it because this is one of my all-time favorites. And this is just a really low stakes book about an orc who decides to not live the mercenary life anymore and open up a coffee shop. Literally, that's the vibe. That's all that's going on. So if you're looking for something like just chill, this is perfect for that. But if you like a little bit more plot, probably not your thing. And then along with that, I would say to pick up Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. Same vibe, almost the exact same setup, but you have Viv earlier on in life. She gets hurt while she's fighting and she has to take a break because she hurt her leg, and she decides to help. I don't know what this creature is, but she decides to help a creature get their secondhand bookshop up and running and, you know, making the business do what it needs to do. So also really love this one. I don't think it really matters which order you read them in. I read it in the publication order and was just fine, but some people have suggested reading this one first before going into Legends and Lattes, but totally up to you. And then we are moving into one of my all-time favorite series, and that is the Atlas series by Olivia Blake, which starts with the Atlas 6. This is definitely going to give you the dark academia setting if that's what you're looking for. So we have 6 magicians who are invited to this Alexandrian society, but they find out that only 5 of them will actually be inducted into the society. And what happens to the other one, you'll have to read to find out. I love this. Now, know going in that this series and these books are very pretentious, and you are going to have to pay attention, and you're going to have to read some words that you don't even know what is even going on. But, you know, that's just Olivia Blake, and it'll all mostly make sense. You just got to roll with it and know that, you know, it's going to be fun. And I think the books end on some really good cliffhangers. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be honest. The ending pissed me off a little bit, but it was still really good, and I still highly recommend and love this series so much. And since we are talking about dark academia, I should definitely mention In These Hollowed Halls, and this is a dark academia anthology, and it came out last year. It features Olivia Blake, Emma Rio, Susie Yang, David Bell, JT Ellison, and many more. So this cover alone just screams fall. It's so beautiful, and the stories in this were pretty interesting and were kind of creepy, and I just, it set the vibes for sure. So if you're looking for, something a little quicker, this anthology is definitely something that I would suggest you pick up. Now, moving on to another one of my all-time favorite series, we have Blood Like Magic by LaSalle Sandberry, and I am itching to do a reread of this, and I feel like fall would be the perfect time to do that. And so this follows blood witches, and like, what else do you need to know for fall? We got blood witches, and that screams fall, right? So we follow Voya, who is coming upon the age where her gift will be announced, and she is given the task by her ancestors to kill her first love. And once she does that, she will be able to, get her powers and everything. But if she doesn't, then that will affect the powers of everyone in her family. And so Voya has a lot on her shoulders to be a teenager. She also has never been in love. So she's like, I don't even know the signs of what I am looking for at this point. So that's what we're following. And then we go into the second book, Blood Like Fate. It is just as amazing, and I am actually really ready to reread these, so that just might happen this fall if I can squeeze it in. Sci-fi dystopian series. This is a YA series. It's pretty well known. Arc of a Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and that starts off with, of course, Scythe. So in this world, the humans have basically conquered death. There is no illness, there is no disease, there's no war, no bad things exist in this world. So basically no one dies, and when no one dies, you have population issues. And so they have created this order of scythes who get to decide who lives and who dies. And we follow Citra and Rowan, two teenagers who are being trained to be scythes. And so we get to follow that and also explore, how different scythes go about deciding who kills who and all the things. It's a very, very interesting story that makes you think about life, and I love Citra and Rowan. I just had such a fun time reading this series, and I think it will be perfect for a fall read. And then we have a literary fiction book that I read maybe a couple of years ago at this point, but I had a fun time with it, and that is 100 Other Girls by Aman Hariri Kia. So this follows Nora, who is a aspiring writer and an amateur blogger in New York City, and Nora gets a job working at her beloved magazine that she grew up reading, and she gets to work for the editor-in-chief for this magazine. And of course, she's trying to get her foot in the door to eventually become a writer for this magazine, but the editor-in-chief that she ends up working for is struggling to switch over to this digital format, and also dealing with the changes of how print magazines aren't necessarily the thing anymore, and people are moving more towards websites, and she is really struggling with that. And so of course Nora's not really having the time of her life that she thought she was going to have working for the editor-in-chief, and some things happen, and it's just really kind of like a slice of life story. There are some really good plot twists and things that happen in this book, but the cover screams fall. Magazines, writings, books, all of those things scream fall to me, so I think this is a really good one to pick up during that time. And then we have The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brian Randall, and this one is kind of like a mixture of fantasy, magical realism-ish type situations. So this follows our main character, and she thinks that she has a curse of 4 heartbreaks. So essentially she has 4 heartbreaks, and then her magic will be affected, basically meaning that she wouldn't have it anymore. And then her grandmother gets cancer and gets sick, and so she's really trying to deal with that, and also deal with trying to keep herself kind of hidden and sheltered so that she doesn't have that heartbreak and lose her magic. So the main character's twin brother comes back to town along with some other family as they hear about the grandmother getting sick, because they kind of basically know at this point it's time to say their goodbyes. And so Sadie is trying to be the rock of the family and not really, show how much this is affecting her, and also trying to fight against this curse. So it's kind of the story of that. This is really slow, small town, yeah, very atmospheric, very fallish. It's giving. I had a really good time reading this. It was very surprising to me actually because I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much as I did. But going in, you're gonna get some grief, you're gonna get some illness, cancer, those types of things. So it's not necessarily a light read, but it is definitely an impactful one in my opinion. And then a book that's actually kind of really similar to that, we have The Unmaking of Jim Farrow by Adrienne Young. And this cover, of course, just gives fall. It says a woman risked everything to end her family's century-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love. So essentially this the same but different from the one I just mentioned before. This one involves time travel instead. So yeah, a little more of the magical realism, I think. But yeah, this one's a little on the lighter side, not as heavy, but we're still dealing with those themes of grief in this as well. And I mentioned time travel, and this one was kind of confusing. Like, you just gotta roll with it and then it kind of gets explained. But yeah, this is one you have to definitely just rock with a little bit because it is a little confusing, especially at first. And then we have The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. And I am not usually like a mystery thriller reader, but this one got me because it's basically the Great British Baking Show, and I am obsessed with that show. So I thought that, this will be kind of cute. And it's a whodunit in this house where they are basically hosting a version of the Great British Baking Show. It's really a character study in my opinion because you really go into depth with all these characters, and I think that Jessa does a really good job because you can really differentiate each character, because sometimes when there's a lot of them, you don't know who is who, but Jessa definitely made it to where each person had their own personality and they were easy to tell apart. Yeah, this was just a fun time. Yeah, pick this one up if that sounds like something that you would like. And then we have The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This is about a girl named Lucy who really didn't have the best childhood, but she found her solace in books, particularly books written by Jack Masterson. And she is trying to adopt one of the boys in her class because she's a teacher and she doesn't really have the money. So she gets an invitation to this competition that Jack Masterson is hosting, where he will give the person who wins the rights to his last book. And of course that comes with a buttload of money because everybody is anticipating this book. And so we just kind of follow that story. This is very whimsical, I guess you could say, or is that the right word? I don't know. But yeah, this definitely like takes you out of our world and plants you into theirs, and it's very fun and like a real bookish book that I think takes us back to like the childhood stories that we loved to read back then. And I had a good time reading this. Next up, we have The Bookshop and the Barbarian, and this is by Morgan Stang. And this is like a cozy mystery fantasy type situation. So we follow Marabella, who is the new owner of the Cozy Quill. It's described as a low-stakes comedic and cozy fantasy with a slice of life and a sapphic romance. It's about the celebration of books, autumn and winter, community, friendship, and unexpected love. And there's plenty of fourth wall breaking and a narrator who may or may not be a green slime. This was fun. There was a point in this book where it like stops and asks you questions about what you've read, and I just had a really good time reading this because I'm like, okay, you actually checking if I'm paying attention, and also like thank you for checking if I'm paying attention, because sometimes you just zone out while you're reading. But it was really fun. That breaking of the fourth wall in the book actually like communicating with you, the reader, as the reader. It was really fun. This was a great short little situation to pick up, so definitely recommend this one. And then we have The Bennett Women by Eden Apaya-Kubi, and this is also a school setting book, and it is a modern spin on Pride and Prejudice, and it follows a bunch of girls who live in this Bennett house at a university. It just kind of follows their life and their different situations. We have EJ, an ambitious Black engineering student. We have Tessa, a Filipino astronomy major, and then Jamie, a newly out trans woman who is studying French and theater. So we just follow them and their lives and kind of, grow with them and learn with them. And this is really fun to see how the experience of each of these 3 different women happened in college. And, it was really chill, like slice of life character study. Had a great time reading it, and I definitely think that you should pick this up. And lastly, we are going to go through my romantasy recommendations. First up, we have Lure of the Wilds by Annalise Sabrana, and this says an abandoned library with a deadly enchantment, a Fey Lord who will do anything to get in, and a brave human woman, a collector of stories, really willing to risk it all for a taste of knowledge and power. So I'm not going in that this is indeed a love triangle, so if that is not your thing, sorry, not sorry. But yes, it's fun, it's a good time. And this will also be a series, so I haven't heard the release date for the second book, but this was good and fun, so pick it up. And then we have a recent release, and that is The Wren and the Holly Library by K.A. Lindy. I had a really good time reading this. This is a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, and it says there are legends in our world, tales of beasts and beauties, creatures and stories that would keep you up at night, of monsters born. All those stories you've heard come from a kernel of truth. So this was really fun, and you already know what I'm going to say. Pick it up. And then we have another series, and I have a very interesting relationship with this series because I really enjoyed the first book, but the second 2, I liked them, but they just weren't what I was expecting based on the first book. I'll say that. So this is the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Carrie Maniscalco. And in this series, we follow Amelia, and basically she has a twin sister, Victoria. Victoria ends up getting murdered, and Emily teams up with a prince of hell to figure out what happened to them. And also there is someone going around killing witches in general, so they're trying to figure that out as well. And this is a fun witchy read, and I definitely think that it gives fall. Note that going into this series, the first book is very much YA, the first book. Now the second and the third give very much romantasy, real spicy, real adult, real spicy. So if you're not ready for that change or expecting it, you're gonna be a little thrown off like I was. But yeah. And then moving on, we have another series, and that is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. And y'all, this is just so cute. It's so cozy. It gives fairy tale. It gives, cozy up and read this book. There are stakes, but also like it's just such a fun book that you don't have to take serious. So if you're looking for something a little lighter, this is for sure one that I would pick up. And it follows Evie, who needs a job because she's taking care of her father and her younger sister, and she ends up being employed by the villain. And the villain in this world is just this big bad monster that nobody wants to be around, and it's even treasonous to just communicate with him. So of course Evie has to hide the fact that she's working for him, and somebody is double-crossing the villain, someone who works for him, and they're finding out all the villain's secrets and messing up his plans. So Evie and the villain team up to figure out who's doing that. And this is a very slow burn romance, so if you like that, then I definitely suggest picking it up. And then we also have a second book in this series called Apprentice to the Villain. It was just released in August. Yeah, this series just screams cozy and also screams fall to me, so I think it'll be a good time to pick them up. And then last but certainly never the least, we have Feybound by Sarah L. Arifi, and this is the first book in the Feybound series. And in this, we basically follow 2 elven sisters who end up discovering this Fey world and figuring out that things aren't as they seem. And this is also a romance as well. I don't want to say too much about this, but I think this, I don't even know why this gives fall, but I I look for any excuse to recommend this book. It will be good in any season that you read it in because I am just obsessed with this book. One of my favorites. And it's a good time to reread because the second book is supposed to come out in February. So, it'll be a good time. Also, I think the cover says fall to me. But yeah, this is definitely fun, spicy. It's a good time. I think the lore and the world building is done really well in this, and it's something different because we have the humans, the fae, and the elves don't know that the fae even exist, and then the humans, okay, you know what? Pause. I was getting into spoilers. I'm gonna shut up now, but this book, pick it up. And with that being said, we have come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for staying with me to the end. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you think. And if you have any recommendations for me based on any of these that you've seen in this video, please let me know. I'm always looking for recommendations, especially fall recommendations, because like everybody else, it is my favorite season to read. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you have the best day that